Lots of golfers really struggle when it comes to hitting hybrids or the very long irons. Now, what I want you to do is try and have the right philosophy when you play them. And also I'm going to share with you a few little tips and tricks to help you enhance your hybrid game. So most golfers get a bit confused whether they play it like a wood or an iron. And the key thing really with this club and with hybrid clubs is we need to be playing them more like an iron, in truth be told. The truth of the matter is we hit down on the golf ball with every single golf club apart from the driver and the putter. So if we have the philosophy of trying to sweep the ball or hit up on the ball with these clubs, unless the ball sat on the tee peg, we're not going to be very successful. Now the club is longer than an iron for sure, and there's less loft than some irons depending on what hybrid number we're using. So that makes it a little bit more difficult in terms of directional control. But that's only because the ball's traveling further and there's less backspin. When we have less backspin, obviously we increase the side spin. The more the ball's spinning back, the less it can spin to the side. So bear that in mind. And if we're looking at a 10% dispersion with this club versus a 10% with an iron, obviously it's going to be a wider gap. So in terms of playing it, what we're looking for you to do basically is making sure this club lands after the golf ball and we be hitting down whilst we collect that golf ball. So very much a case of getting the right ball position and the right philosophy to make sure we do that. So when we go and play this one here is a 4 hybrid, if you like. So we want to play it pretty much like we would do a 3 or 4 iron. So the ball position for that, a 7 iron would be in the center, a driver would be left heel, wants to be kind of halfway in between the two of those. So in between the center position and the left heel position. We want the weight to be even. We want the stance to be the same as you would do for an iron. Obviously, the wider we go with our stance, the more chances we're going to hit up on the golf ball. So we want to make sure the stance stays the same, the weight stays the same, so we don't hit up on the ball too much. As we move the ball forward in our stance, it becomes harder to hit down on the ball. So we want to make sure with all the clubs we put in the forward section of the stance, we still have the philosophy of hitting down apart from that driver. So key would be mentally to feel like you're hitting an iron. So I'm going to try and take, and again, even if I don't, I'm going to try and take a divot after the golf ball. So I'm really going to try and feel I still get this laggy kind of swing, get my arms forward, which I talk about a lot in my videos, get my lateral movement forward. And that's the key thing, the lateral bump and that strike after the golf ball. That one there, I hit it lovely. Beautiful flight, beautiful shape. Bit of bruising of the turf, didn't take a huge divot. I don't take huge divots anyway. My angle of approach is about 3 degrees down. But I definitely want to keep those wrists a bit stronger for longer for me in my golf swing. But I'm not perfect, as I tell people quite a lot. But that shot there I take all day long. It's gone 220, 210 yards straight. You know, exactly where I'd want to hit the ball and a very solid strike. What a lot of people do when they hit hybrids is struggle with striking it low in the face. Let's give you some ways of feeling now that we're going to get that strike better for the guys that struggle with this more so. Okay, so we're going to use 2 tee pegs to help us here. One is going to be for a practice swing feel, and one's going to be for a more visual representative when we go and hit the golf ball. So one is going to go past the golf ball, about a club head width past the golf ball, and our philosophy is going to be to try and hit the ball, then the tee, in order to have that low point extending more through the golf ball and get us extending through the golf ball too. The second drill is going to be having a tee peg. I'm going to place it into the ground at an angle, not too big an angle. And what we're going to practice with that is delivering the middle of the club in a delofted sense at that tee peg as if we were going to knock that tee peg further into the ground. So that's going to promote that steep angle of approach. So let me just move that ball slightly out of the way to make this easier to show. So I'm going to set up to that tee peg, again in my forward section of my stance, swing back, and the idea is I am going to try and knock that tee peg into the ground. That knocking into the ground, the sensation of what it creates in my wrists, the shaft lean, the pressure onto the ground, the sharp leading edge is exactly what I'm wanting to feel when I go and hit the golf ball. And even if we feel we do this too much in the swing and make it more punchy, that's not going to be a bad thing. At the end, I'll cover what you maybe should do as a cheat and adaptation if you really struggle to get your angle of attack down. So if you're the kind of golfer that doesn't have an angle of attack that's down with, say, 7-9 in the middle of your stance, you're going to struggle with these clubs unless they're sat up on a very healthy lie. So I'll cover some cheats you can do for that after this tip. So let's put that ball back into place now. So we've got that T-peg now, a club head width in front of that ball. Now my goal is going to be, can I reach that T-peg? Can I get some ball and turf interaction and make that T-peg disappear? I'm a visual learner, so this will definitely help me. So that one there, more turf, T-peg's gone. The strike compared to the one I hit well just now was a little lower. It was probably more solid on the face. The flight for me, I prefer in between the two. So something a bit higher like the first one, but obviously that strike was more ball and turf and more solid in the face and where I hit it. So for me, as a visual, if I'm hitting them a bit thin, that would work perfect for me. But it's finding what works perfectly for you is the key thing. So as promised, what's the cheats if you can't get this angle of attack down? Well, we talked earlier about moving the ball more forward. Well, if you can't land the club after the ball, that's just going to make you worse. So let's go for the guys who can't hit down the ball and place the ball in the center of the stance. And we talked about the weight being even. For the guys who can't hit down, let's load 5% onto the lead foot. And let's flare that foot and put that knee a little bit more on top of that foot too. So loading this left side a little bit more address for me, the lead side. And then in the golf swing, just trying to feel I keep my weight a little bit more on the lead side in my backswing. So not transfer quite as much as my pressure to the trail side. Normally in a golf swing, it would get to about 80% at this most pressured change position. And at the top of the swing, about 60. Let's try and feel we would do 70 and 50, right? It's a feel. But we're certainly going to try and feel more centered, almost left bend here, and try and keep my shoulders almost on top of the front side of the ball rather than the middle or the back side of the ball, just to keep that downward pressure. Ideally, we don't want to cheat by coming over the top when we do this, but let's just try and feel that we keep in the backswing your tailbone a bit more this side, your body a bit more this side, and your pressure a bit more this side to help that ball striking. So that one was probably close to the best one of the lot. The most turf interaction, the most height, the most solid feel. Probably didn't go as far as the first one because I feel I'd probably move my pressure the least amount. But certainly from a point of view of how it felt off the club face and how it felt with the turf interaction, that one probably felt the best. So for the guys who can't do it the perfect way, there is another way. There's always a way to play better golf. And hopefully through my channel, I show that through various videos of how you can either develop to make your golf swing nearer to the most orthodox way, or how you can find some little cheats to make you play better without too much work.